Welcome to Homefront Sit Rep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find Homefront Syrup on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out Homefront Syrup's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting.
Out on the edge of the battle and back, we've carried the weight and we've walked every track. From desert dust to the fire at home, we've learned how to fight, how to stand alone. But no one tells you what comes after the war, when silence is louder than the guns we bore. That's where we speak, that's where we heal. Stories too real for Hollywood reels. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see, when warriors to battle just differently. This is our check-in, our voice, our step. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. For the fallen, the fighting, and those who came home. For the brothers and sisters who still feel alone. We're holding the line with truth and respect. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. For the fallen, the fighting, and those who came home. For the brothers and sisters who still feel alone. We're holding the line with truth and respect. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. It ain't all medals and waving flags. There's pain in the silence and weight in the facts. But we've got a mic and a mission to share, to tell the damn truth, cause somebody's gotta care. We laugh, we cry, we cuss, we pray. We honor the ones who ain't here today. From basic to battle and back to the block. This is our rhythm, our round table talk. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see, when warriors to battle just differently. This is our check-in, our voice, our step. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. Still heavy in dreams out of reach, full of lessons the textbooks could never teach. We're sounding off, no filter, no prep. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. So if you've worn the boots or love someone who did, if you swallowed your hurt and kept it all hid, pull up a chair, you're not alone. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see, where courage meets scars and raw honesty. This is our anthem, our truth intercept. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. For the ones still standing and those we've lost yet, for every single story we'll never forget. We speak so others won't forget. This is the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. Real talk, real vets, real life. Homefront Sit Rep podcast, where the mission continues.
Welcome, everybody, to a Sunday edition of Homefront Sit Rep. How is everybody doing? I think I like this one better. Miss Marie, how are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. It's good to be
Well,
here.
you're back in a different capacity because you are a
Yes.
guest co-host. So thank you for coming back and hanging out. And we're gonna see where this little friendship goes, because I think you got a lot to tell and you got a lot to share with the veteran community out there with your service. Of course, when we had you on, we barely scratched the middle portion because we've had you on twice already. And,
Yes, sir.
the first time we scratched a little bit of the surface, and then we had you back on, and then we scratched a lot more, but we still didn't get into all of it.
Yes, sir.
We're super excited that, we're going to continue the series with Marie with sliderbabe.com. So you go check out sliderbabe.com and you can see her poetry and stuff there. But right now you're a guest co-host with me. And you're just give a brief synopsis of people that, are new to the show that are watching now, or maybe listening later. A little brief synopsis of who you are real quick.
So, hey guys, I am Marie Slider Henriksen, and I am the co-host on Every Day is a Saturday USMC Veteran Coffee Talk with Brian and Marie. I am an Army veteran. I have dealt with a lot of different types of traumas in my life and addictions. My deployment was kind of rough, and I handled a lot of my trauma in my life in not the best way, and sought addictions and extracurricular activities, and ended up in having a very low bottom. And I've been sober now for about 8 years, and in those 8 years, I've been to the psych unit a few times. I have dealt with a lot of trauma therapy. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just started, sharing my story this year, especially in writing with my poetry, doing recovery advocacy and podcasting. And I've just really been enjoying it. And yeah, last week I was on with Willis and shared my childhood journey and my military journey. And next time I'll be sharing, my journey of hitting my bottom in my civilian life and then getting sober to now. So I'm just happy to be here. I love to encourage other people to share their voice, find their community, and heal out loud. And so I'm excited to be here with Willis to be able to co-host and interview another veteran. So it'll be fun.
Well, I'm thankful you are here because I know podcasting for me is my form of therapy, right? And I
Yes.
know for you it's the same thing because now you're able to tell your story and it's helping you heal. Um, and you're able to help other veterans heal as well because there might be other female veterans out there that kind of went through similar situations that you went through, and you're with you being able to tell your story, they're now able to say, "Oh, maybe I can tell my story." And, something we talk about on Homefront Sit Rep is hashtag be someone stranger. And that's what you're being for some of these female veterans out there. You're being their stranger, because now they hear your story and they're like, "Oh, maybe I can tell my story to other veterans out there that might have a similar situation." So that's what's so powerful about being in the niche we are in the podcasting world, that our niche within the podcast, because there's millions of podcasts out there, but our veteran community, it's a small niche within that, and that's what makes it very unique, because we're here to reach out one veteran at a day, one veteran a day. If I can reach 100 veterans, awesome, but I'm just going for that one. That's all I want, is that one. That one veteran helps me sleep at night. As long as I know I touch one veteran's life, then I know I can sleep easy that night. Now, granted, I don't sleep regardless, but it does help me sleep easier. So,
Yeah, I actually I had an experience recently, and I won't go into any details, but of somebody who wasn't really happy to hear my story, and that's okay. The reality of the situation is some my story is not meant for everyone. It's
yeah.
meant for people who relate with it, and people who are too scared to tell their story, or feel too ashamed, or feel guilty, or feel alone. And so that is who I share my story for. And if people don't approve of my story, that's fine. I don't approve of my story. I don't like, the way that I reacted in my life. I don't like where my addictions took me. I don't like where my trauma responses took me. And I'm so very grateful that I've been able to heal from them, but I still share about them so that other people can see that there is hope, there is joy and peace to find on the other side. And so I'm grateful to do that.
So my friend Sharice on TikTok, um, she says, "I'm not a vet, but telling my story, still not ready. Embarrassing." And then she said, "Think, uh, let's see, what does it say? Yeah, scroll back up here. Think, have to forgive yourself." And then she says, "Appreciate your bravery to share your story. Um, and then your story is not for everyone, and you have the right to choose." So that's what she's saying on TikTok there. So I want to give her a big shout out. And Sharice, whenever you're ready to tell your story, I know you're not a veteran. You are I think her dad was in the military, or her grandpa, I can't remember. But you are a family member, you are a patriot. So whenever you're ready to tell your story, I will be more than glad and happy to have you on the show to tell your story, because I think
And
it'll be a powerful one.
Well, and until you're ready, if you just need someone to talk to, that's one of the things that I do as well is recovery advocacy from trauma and addiction. So please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk, just me and you, until you're ready to share with other people.
Yeah, I think the more you talk about it, the easier it gets to tell your story. I know for a long time I didn't want to tell my story. Um, and hell, my wife will tell you, um, we've been married 20, it'll be 20 years in a few days on the 18th. 20 years, been together 23 years. And she didn't really find out a lot of my story until I started this podcast. And I started opening up and telling my story a little bit more each time. And she's like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And that's the whole hashtag be someone stranger, because we're more apt as humans to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most, because we have what I call that protector gene. We want to protect the ones that we love the most. So we don't want them to know the struggles that we went through, whether it was, my time in Haiti or your time in Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't want the ones that we love the most to feel that pain that we went through or that trauma that we went through. So we hide that and we push it down and we try to protect them. So that's why hashtag be someone stranger is so important. So, but that, let's transition. Ooh, there's a lot of static. What was that? Was that did you hear the static on your end, or
It might have been my phone coming across
oh, okay.
the
All right. Yeah. Cause it was
the
coming through and I was like,
microphone.
whoa.
Yeah,
So,
sorry. That was probably me.
no, you're good. So tonight we got a good guest on. So we got Mr. Frank McGaha. I think I said that right. Yeah, he gave me a thumbs up. All right. U.S. Navy veteran, former federal law enforcement officer, and nationally recognized law enforcement instructor. Now, this guy has all kinds of accolades and stuff like that, but we're not going to get into that because that's not what it's about. We'll get into some of them, but that's not what it's about. Tonight is about his military service, his transition out of the military, him creating a company and being resilient, facing adversity and stuff throughout his journey, his post journey of military service, and what he's doing now. So I think, are we ready to bring him up?
I'm
Let's
ready.
do it.
I'm excited to
Let's
hear him.
let's bring him up. Let's see. I'm gonna put you over here. It won't let me. Let's do that, and then we'll bring him over here. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. How y'all doing?
Man, we are doing awesome. So first off, I want to say thank you for coming on and hanging out with us for this hour. Because I know you're a busy guy. Your wife is putting the kids down and stuff like that. So I know you got a whole thing, there with the family and stuff. But thank you for taking time out of your day to come hang out with us here on Homefront Sit Reps. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I
Hey,
think it goes both ways.
You're very, very welcome, my friend. So do me a favor, introduce yourself to the world of Homefront Sit Rep, my friend.
Yeah, sure. As I said, thanks. I appreciate you both having me on. And a little bit about me. Originally born and grew up in New Jersey, but bounced back and forth between North Carolina every chance I got. And then 19, enlisted in the U.S. Navy. Went in for, I said, my whole family did tree work. I was like, that's too hard on the body. I want to go do something else. So enlisted as for buds for U.S. Navy SEALs. Got my butt handed to me, definitely. Couple injuries, rotated into aviation, where I finished out my career as a helicopter crew chief, gunner, and just a multi-mission platform on 53s. And then from there, got out of the military after about 6 years, and some really fun times and not so fun times, we'll say. We'll dive into that, I guess, a little bit more. And then right from there, I said, I'm an avid outdoorsman. So I said, I always was interested in law enforcement. I'm going to go pursue, the dream job. I wanted to be the backcountry law enforcement ranger in the Smoky Mountain National Park in North Carolina. Went into ironically, there's only 4 academies for that in the entire United States. One of them is in Western North Carolina where the Smokies are. I was like, oh, that's fortuitous. So I went there, ended up doing an EMT program there. And then I was the sergeant of that police academy. And I told everyone what I wanted to do. They all laughed at me. I didn't realize how hard it was to actually get into law enforcement with the Park Service. But I was lucky. I got blessed, recruited right out of the academy or halfway through the academy for that dream position. Did that for a little bit and then lateraled up to Washington, D.C. with another federal law enforcement agency. Lateraled back down after some years up there to the VA police in Asheville, North Carolina. Was only there for a few months until I started my company, Armogan Consulting Training, which was designed to help put good law enforcement officers on the street. So that's a rough synopsis of everything, I guess, to keep it short and sweet.
Heck yeah, man. No, I love it. So you did your time in the military. So you went in, you wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Like all good Navy guys, you guys want to be Navy SEAls.
Yep.
Me, I went Marines. I was like, I was 03. I was infantry. I was like, do I want to go the recon route? Because of course there wasn't the MARSOC then. We had recon or scout snipers, and I was like, do I want to do that, or do I just want to be a grunt, do my time and see where it goes from there? And I was like, so I tried, I went the scout sniper route, and I was like, and I got out, I got out in 2001, right before 9/11 happened. And then I was on terminal leave up until September 1st. 9/11 happened. I got recalled back in. They put us with a mobilization support battalion, and we deployed from there. But we were technically not active duty. We were active reservists because they kept us with the MSB, which is weird. You're going to call me back, send me back for combat refresher trainer, but you're going to put me with a MSB battalion. Of course, it was the first time the Marine Corps ever activated the individual ready reserves. And I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out. Here you are, you did your time in the military, you got out, and you wanted to become a officer within the parks, the national parks, which, like you said, is a hard job to get into. Even game wardens, like becoming a game warden is super hard to get into because it's a limited amount of spots. Because like I know in Kentucky, most of the counties have one game warden per county. Now, your bigger counties might have 2 or 3, depending, but your very rural country has one. And I'm assuming that the state parks are kind of the same way. You're very limited on how many officers you have per square mile. I'm assuming, is that correct?
Yeah, in some capacity. So let's take the Smoky Mountain National Park, the most visited national park in the entire United States. It's split between Tennessee and North Carolina. On North Carolina side, there was 5 permanent rangers, and then in seasonal was supplemented with, I think, an additional 4 or 5 during the summer season, during the busy season, right? And so out of the entire national park, which has over 900 miles of backcountry trails, there's only 2 backcountry rangers, me and my counterpart on Tennessee, and that's it.
That's crazy. And that's for 900 square miles.
900 miles of trails, not way bigger
just the trails. Just the
trails.
Oh, because the criminals are not going to be on the trails. They're going to be in the backcountry doing some crazy stuff in the backcountry. So I've seen the show Moonshiner, so I know what they do back in there, up in the Appalachia.
So is that the kind of stuff that you are were training for, or that you did, is that you went back in there to like find the dealers or like mass murderers that are running and hiding and all of that stuff that you see in the horror movies? Is that the kind of stuff that you were doing?
So if you're looking to become a park ranger, you have 2 different types. You have what's called interpretive, which is what the educational side, that's that front country. Some of them do backcountry work. And then you have the law enforcement or protection side, which are sworn federal law enforcement officers. And for me, the backcountry side, look at every national park as its own little miniature city, right? No matter how big or small. For the bigger ones that have backcountry, and Great Smoky Mountain is nothing compared to Yellowstone or Glacier or something like that. But for the backcountry side, a lot of it was poaching. It was a lot of conservation law enforcement, making sure, checking permits, checking fishing license, things like that, making sure people aren't building fires outside of designated areas so they don't burn down the entire national park. Ironically, making sure, now this is contentious, but making sure people that don't have their dogs in the backcountry, right? I can't tell you how many times people say I lost my dog, and I have to tell them, do you want your collar back when I find the dog or not? Because there's a good chance a house dog isn't going to make it in
Right.
the there. But it was that, even kind of boat patrol down at Fontana Lake. We'd get DUIs on boats, things like that. I watched a couple people. They came in. I just called off duty. I set up camp. I was going to do some fishing, try and catch some fish for dinner. And I saw this boat just come screaming in. I'm like, they're not going to stop. And man, they must have rowed their boat 10 feet up onto the bank. They were so drunk, bottles pouring out. They both got out with a fifth in their hand. And I was like, okay. Had to go back to my tent and grab all my gear, call back into service. So that poaching ginseng, less moonshine, more ginseng. Ironically, that's the big one.
Big ticket item. Yeah.
I would say how much it goes for a dry pound these days, but then we'd have more ginseng poachers. So I'll leave that. People will just Google it, but you know the deal. But that was a lot of conservation, a lot of fishing, a lot of making sure there's no fishing violations, hunting violations, a lot of education, and then a lot of safety, a lot of search and rescues.
So can I ask, I don't know, Willis, how much that you're wanting him to get into this, but a question that I have, because we kind of like went over your military service like
Mhm.
really quickly. Um, I wanted to touch base just because like my big thing is all about like mental health and healing, and like
Mhm.
I have physical disability as well, and so I kind of want to touch on what your experience was when when you got your whatever the injury was. I'd like to know what your injury was in
Mhm.
the SEALs, if you're okay with that. And then how the mental health aspects affected you when you went into aviation instead of this plan that you had. And also how during your military service you were able to heal from heal from the physical injury, but also the mental health aspect of not going for what you had originally chosen to.
Yeah, and after hearing just the snapshot of your service and your stuff, I mean, it's an emotional kind of approach. I will say is I can't really take any credits even to this point in my life for any of the success or any. I've had really good mentors, and that all started in my military service. So, um, you know, like I said, 18 enlisted, 19 left for boot camp, and I said, I'm going to cocky. I'm going to go do the hardest thing I can personally find. Went, SO and went through. Back then, I don't know if they still do now. They had a specific boot camp for individuals in some type of special operations, whether it be EOD, SWIC, SEALs, diver, rescue swimmer. And it was nice. I mean, it was one of those things where all you did was you trained all the time. That's all you were doing. Okay, so did that. Once you get done with basic, you stay in Great Lakes and you do what's called buds prep or pre-buds. A lot of the prep to get everyone ready. Well, I found during that, I don't know how familiar you all are with the terminology, but it's called the bud shuffle, where you're pretty much just running in formation. A lot like a march, just with a pace that can be maintained by everybody. I started developing shin splints that led to stress fractures right then and there, and it was, you go through with everyone, you have your friends, you kind of do your trauma bonding even in basic and pre-buds, and I had my core group of guys, and I got stress fractures right around the middle to the end of I would say the end of pre-buds, and they put me on light duty. I mean, I fought them tooth and nail. They had to drag me to the med unit. Kind of much of what we were discussing earlier about,
Yeah.
the military, it's frowned upon to report injuries, right?
Yeah.
It's always frowned upon. Now, for any service member that's listening or prior service member, that can really bite you when you get out. I mean,
Yep.
from a a way to maintain your health. So they forced me in, pressed on my legs. I wanted to cry like a little sissy lala at that point in time. I did not really even know what pain was at that point in time until they pressed on my legs. And I was, wow. And then the recovery of it was absolutely. My last week after a 6-week recovery, I had to run almost 3 marathons on the treadmill. So Monday I had to run 23 miles. Wednesday I had to run 23 miles, and Friday I had to run 23 miles. It was on a treadmill. It was the worst.
That's
That was
crazy.
the exit exam just to get back into training. So I did that, winded up missing my class, rolled out with a different class, got out there, and I immediately started feeling them come back. Kept going. Was loading up on as much ibuprofen as legally allowed to consume at that point in time. And yeah, just, I was coming off an obstacle for the dirty name and came down, and I just felt both shins snap. Came back as kind of stress fractures leading to compression fractures. And then I was, I guess scared would be I was scared that I was going to get sent home, like tail between my legs. Like I failed. That was the biggest thing there, and once again, I was maybe 20 at the time, I think, at that point. So that was the biggest thing that was bothering me, was like, I failed. And then I rolled over to North Island, which is where they send you after you don't complete buds. And apparently I wasn't even supposed to go there. You're not supposed to leave buds if you have injuries, but I somehow slipped through the cracks and went over to North Island after I got back up to walking and everything again. I had a really good senior chief that asked me what I was going to do. And I said, I'm going to try and get any way I can back to any type of special operations. And at that point in time, I don't know if it was luck, God's grace, or there's just this senior chief, or a mixture of all of them, but they had an opening for crewmen, air crewmen, which is NAC. It's its own rate, is what we call our jobs instead of MOSs. And he said, I can get you into this, but if you get hurt again, they're going to kick you out of the Navy. And I said, never going to happen. There's no way I'm going to get hurt again. And so he got me into it. I rolled out to Pensacola, Florida, as air crew. And they said, there's this one rate called AWS, which stood for Aviation Warfare Specialist once upon a time, but now it's just kind of dry crewman. You have it's the counterpart to a rescue swimmer, so to say. So doing
Awesome.
more dry operations rather than, kind of wet rescue swimmer operations. But anyway, they had like one billet every other class. And they said, hey, if you get in on this, you can still, do NSW, which is Naval Special Warfare, still go out with teams on drops, things like that. Their main mission was anti-mine warfare, but it was a multi-mission platform on 53s. Marines, you guys are very familiar with 53.
If it
But
ain't leaking, it ain't right.
exactly, right. If you are not dripping oil, hydraulic oil, you're out of oil and you should probably land it.
Yep.
That's exactly it. Those were my birds. But anyway, yeah. So I managed once again to pick up that billet, roll out to Norfolk, Virginia, and once again, good mentorships out there. Well, I guess I'll back up. After kind of fracturing my legs twice, I said, I'm never going to let this happen again. So every single day I did 6 mile soft sand beach runs by myself. Every single day. Every other day it was kind of barefoot. It was not pleasant. Yeah, it was not pleasant, but I just
Were you just trying to rebuild the muscles?
yeah, I was just trying to strengthen them.
Okay.
If you would look at my boots from doing the Bud Shuffle, the heels were always just scraped raw. I was replaced, and I think that was the main factor. Now, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I just said I'm never going to let that happen again. So I did soft sand beach runs almost 6 miles every single day after PT. I mean, it was just that was my routine. I If we'd work out during the day, I'd lift during the day, and I'd run in the evening after we got off. And it
Shin
worked.
splints are no joke.
Well,
Yeah.
the shin splints are one thing. Then it goes to the stress fractures. That's where
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, ice bucket baths every day, for 15
Yeah.
minutes a day. It was one of those things where I just didn't want to ever one, I didn't ever want to let myself or my team down again, and then two, I just didn't want to feel that pain ever again or not be able to perform. Now,
Well, it's awesome. It's awesome to hear that you were taking steps to take care of yourself. So for me, I kind of talked about it last week, but I was the one that made people go slow on the runs because from basic training and AIT, I had issues with my hips. I found out now that I have a genetic condition, but I didn't know back then. And so I was one of those people that was always the slow ones that made it be slow in the formations but I never took care of myself. And so then when I was in Iraq dealing with all of the heavy weights and all of the gear and this, that, and the other, my hips just gave out. And so I ended up getting a medical discharge because my hips got so bad because I did not take care of them, early on. And just things got worse and worse and worse. And so it's really good to hear somebody who started having the injuries and they started taking care of themselves so quickly. Like for me, I just kind of pushed through and I was like, oh, whatever, whatever. I'd get in trouble for not keeping up in formations or not passing the PT test or this, that, and the other. But I didn't take care of myself. And so then things permanently got damaged so badly when I was in Iraq that they did the medical discharge.
Yeah. So
So I'm glad that you did that.
here's the difference between when you were in, when I was in. So I've always had shin splints since I was little bitty, right? Um, but when I joined the military and we would be doing our runs, and I mean, shin splints hurt. I mean, they really, really hurt. And you could feel it just resonating in both of your shins. And I'm like, dude, I got shin splints. And, my doc was like, there's no such thing as shin splints. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So, when I was in, you couldn't complain about shin splints because they're like, "Oh, it's not a thing." And, of course, over the course of years, they finally said, "Oh, well, shin splints is a thing." So, like, running has always been an issue for me, especially sand running, beach running. It was really, really, really hard for me. Like, our PFT, we had to do 3 miles in 18 minutes. That was our passing, 18 minutes, passing grade. Yeah, I always did 3 miles in, like, 21 minutes because of my shin splints because it hurts so friggin' bad. But yet you couldn't complain about it because they're like, "There's no such thing as shin splints." And then, of course, years later, they found out that, shin splints is a thing, and, it could lead to other things, like you said, stress fractures, and then from there, it could lead into other things. But, that's the difference in generations. So I'm glad to see that here you are, you pushing through. They know about your shin splints, and you got, like you said, you fell through the crack and got lucky, to land the job that you did land while you were in there. So
yeah,
it's super cool.
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it all comes kind of full circle in some aspects because I I take the time to lay that story only to kind of show how it played a factor in the rest of my career, specifically in the military. Because with doing all that running and trying to train, I got pretty quick. My fastest mile and a half time ever was an 8:13. And that's
Wow.
so coming from someone who ran a 10:30, 11, all that training got me down to an 8:13. Well, I roll out to Norfolk, and and once again, good mentorships. I managed to be lucky enough to get the academic honor grad in Pensacola, then same thing out in my C school out in Norfolk, and then roll right into my squadron. And I kept training really hard. I really got into fitness, really wanted to take care of myself, just like you were saying, Marie, and kind of go in there and just prevent anything I could prevent from happening again, because it just started hitting me. I'm finally out in the fleet. We don't do ships, right? My squadron deployed to the Middle East. So I wanted, like I said, I never wanted to be the one that caused, another member to fail. Well, ironically, all that training worked out well. My first deployment to the Middle East, we're doing a search and recovery of another crashed helicopter. And I was still a baby bird at the time, which means I was still really new to the squadron. But I got selected to go on a fairly big mission, all because of my physical fitness. And I remember it to this day. My chief, Sully, who's like, "Hey, I'm bringing you because you're the fastest one on the ground. If something goes wrong, you're on the ground." I don't know if that was foreshadowing or not, but we ended up crashing that helicopter, and I sprint over, get to the helicopter just in time to watch it blow, and then I see some movement kind of on the edge of the fuselage, and I'm on I think they measured at roughly 200 feet cliff, and once again, young, dumb, and yeah. So I was like, I think I can make that jump, and so I jump, and now thankfully it wasn't just like straight slate. It had a little bit of a taper to it, so it was a lot of sliding and rolling and cracking my head on a few things. But ultimately, right at the bottom, I land in this huge thorn bush. And when I say thorn bush, I mean, I'm talking thorns. That's what breaks my fall. I managed to run over there and pull out the two pilots, my buddy Jason, and then my main mentor, JP, and then my chief, Sully. Unfortunately, by the time I was able to get back to the helicopter, I wasn't able to get those two out. So that was my first deployment, my first real mission, where and it was like my chief knew. He just, I don't know what it was, but yeah. So that was a very solidifying moment for me, where I said, was the whole buds thing and me training for the purpose of this, but at the same point in time, I still wasn't fast enough, and I had my fair share of trying to figure out, man, why wasn't I faster? And thankfully, like I said, just still good mentorship, good guidance afterwards, and winded up completing 2 more deployments back to the Middle East after that. One as a tactics, that was a short little deployment for a tactics operation, and then another one as an operational deployment. And ironically, well, this is the military and government for you, but about 2 months later, we crashed another one of my helicopters. I was working FCFing, which trying to get it to fly properly, and they categorized it as a hard landing, but we crumbled the whole helicopter. But yeah, so I was down. Like, no one wanted to fly with me after that. They're like, dude, 2 of your helicopters didn't fly. What's going on? But
yeah, that would be, your first deployment, going out and you crash a helicopter, and here you are, you saved who you could save, but unfortunately there was 2 people that you couldn't save. I know that's probably still there, very vivid in your brain. Because I know for me, when I was in Haiti, we were on a humanitarian / peacekeeping kind of mission, where we would go out, escort the Seabees to the schools that they were building, but we were also, their protection, just to make sure nothing crazy happened. Well, while we were there, we were told not to interfere with the locals. Everything that they did there was their customs, their culture, right? And being a 19-year-old, fresh, or actually I was probably 18, fresh from, out of Kentucky, first time being out of the United States, and seeing the stuff that we saw there. I'm not going to go into detail, but you could probably fathom some of the things that we saw in a third world country. And the moral injury, the PTSD, is still here. 20, 30, almost 30 years later, the stuff that I saw there was like, man, and I still wake up in the middle of the night and sweating from head to toe. Certain smells triggers the memories flooding back, and certain sounds will also. So that's something that the more we talk about it, the easier it gets. But it also, we have to relive that trauma each time. And that's, going to a therapist, especially within the VA system, you do that therapist shuffle. You might have this one therapist for a couple months, and then, oh, well, new therapist is coming in. You got to have this therapist. So that then you have to retell your whole story. Because, they won't share that information between the therapists there. So I love the fact that here you are, you went through all of that trauma, right? And you come out on the other end, and now you're looking at your future. And like you said, you had great mentors throughout your time in the military service. So you get out, you're doing federal law enforcement. You did that for several years. What made you decide to go into business for yourself and create a company to do what you're doing?
Yeah. I was, honestly, that goes back to the military. When I got out, right before I got out, I had a major hip surgery done from that jump off of that cliff. Didn't realize how bad it was until my last deployment out there. Could barely run, could barely squat, could barely lift. I was still training hard. I thought it was a hernia. Did the whole deployment, come home, go see the flight doc. I'm like, Doc, just keep it on the down low. Come on, I don't want to get grounded. But I'm pretty sure I got a hernia. It's in my groin. And at that point, I didn't have a good physiological understanding of the human body. He's like, well, let's just send you for an x-ray. Sends me for an x-ray, comes back. The next day I get called into his office, and I was pretty close with my flight doc. He was actually out there on that mission where we crashed that helicopter. And he was like, Frank, I need you in my office. And I'm, oh, okay. This is never good. Usually this could work over a phone call. So I go in there. He's like, hey, you're grounded. I'm like, hernia?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, absolutely not. He said, your ball joint in your hip is pretty much shredded, and it's scoring all your cartilage and tearing all your ligaments and everything like that.
That's what happened to me. Yeah.
Right. So I say, they're like, we can replace it. We can try something a little bit more experimental. I'm like, at this point, I think I was 24. I was like, you're not replacing my hip at 24. I'm just, no. So they went in there, they shaved the head of the femur down, drilled into the head of the femur to create some type of scar tissue to act as the cartilage, cleaned up, took out all the cartilage, cleaned it all up, trimmed up all the ligaments, right? So they wouldn't get impinged anymore. So that was one. And then a few years into law enforcement, maybe 4 or 5 years into law enforcement, shoulder was dislocating all the time from another situation. And I went into SEALs. I loved swimming, right? Couldn't swim anymore. Couldn't rotate my shoulder forward. It would dislocate. Ankle was hurting really bad. So I go to the VA and I say, hey, can you guys take a look at this stuff for me? They find some foreign object in the ankle, and they're like, hey, we got to get the shoulder done too. And I scheduled 2 major surgeries a week and a half apart from one another because I didn't want to take leave from work, or too much leave from work. So they did that, redid the ankle, redid the shoulder. And the biggest reason was I was starting to get concerned that, I got into a lot of foot pursuits, especially in DC. Wanted to get into it with a couple of different suspects. And I was starting to get nervous that a younger or stronger officer than me at that point in time um, might not have to use a tool that's on their duty belt if they get into a scuffle where I might have to if my shoulder gives out.
Right.
That's not fair to the officers I'm working with. It sure as heck ain't fair to the community I'm serving. Um, so had the surgeries done. Well, I came back as quickly as possible. I had a partner I was working with. He was another Navy vet. And like I said, I was pretty quick. I hadn't had a suspect beat me in a foot race yet, even with all my gear on. And we got into a foot pursuit of these 3 suspects. And there was a construction site in DC. And when they put up the fence, they put all that tarping around it so you can't see. Well, my ankle, I just couldn't keep up. I came back off flight duty too quickly and I couldn't keep up. And my partner dipped around that corner and I lost sight of him for maybe just, I don't know, 8 to 10 seconds. It was the longest 8 to 10 seconds of my life. And it just hit me that, okay, it's time to start looking at the next option, because I really did not want to get into it with a suspect that a normal officer could just, physically restrain and then me have to use something on my duty belt that another officer wouldn't. So I took a long, hard look at that and I said, all right, well, I don't know if I'm ready to give up law enforcement, but I started my company. Me and the wife had an option. She got a job offer and I got a job offer to move back to North Carolina at the Asheville VA, where I was only there for a few months. I'd already honor graded the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. They wanted to send me to their academy in Little Rock, which was fine. I had no issue with that. But then I started thinking, I'm like, well, who's a tougher suspect to fight? A veteran or just some, Joe Smith on the street in DC? I was like, well, veterans are pretty well trained. So I don't know if I want to get into a tussle with them and not be able to do it at that point. It was the hardest professional decision I've ever had to make in my life, to decide that maybe I wasn't physically fit enough to perform the duties of a law enforcement officer anymore. And I looked at that tied in with some other stuff. I had a deputy chief at the VA at that time that was, bragging about being under investigation up at a former department he worked with. I'm like, you're not exactly the person I want to work under anyway.
Right.
And I did what every veteran and law enforcement officers does. And when I'm going to start a consulting firm and I'm going to teach everything from TAC med to firearms to, all my knowledge out there. Oh, how I love getting punched in the gut. And, so I did that. And once again, had some good advisors, some good mentors. They said, why don't you put out all your information, see what hits? And I did. And what really hit was helping prep law enforcement candidates. Started with a few veterans wanting to transition from law enforcement from the military to law enforcement, like I did, as well as some other people. And it just took off and blew up, all organically, like we were discussing earlier. It's been a true blessing. I don't think I could articulate it any better than that. It's just been a true blessing. But I look back at everything that has happened, and I don't know if it would have played out the same way if, once again, didn't fracture my legs and buds, didn't have to deal with those helicopter crashes. Sure as heck wouldn't have happened without the guidance from mentors and advisors.
Well, hindsight's
Oh,
go ahead, Marie.
I was just going to say, for me, like with the disability thing, it helped me be able to step back from the life of expectation, of what other people thought that I needed for my life, or what I thought I needed for my life. And it helped me really kind of step back and evaluate, well, what are my goals? What are my priorities? What is my purpose outside of this physical body and outside of what I thought my life was going to be like? And it sounds like you have been able to go through that same journey, like having these disabilities and realizing, okay, I'm not young anymore. My body can't handle this. I need to walk away from the expectations I set up for myself. And now I get to find my purpose. And it sounds like that's what you're doing, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what are some of the things that you are training in your program?
So we mostly start with law enforcement candidates, those that are looking to get into law enforcement. So we'll help them prep. Whether we have a self-paced program where we have our online course where now they have limited access to the community, and even some kind of limited access to me for coaching in some aspects. Then we have a group coaching program, and then we have a one-on-one coaching program. And we've been running it like that for the last few years, and every year it's doubled and doubled and doubled again. So like I said, it's been a blessing, but we focus a lot on that. And I'm just going back to the training that I learned in law enforcement. So much training, you become a chief of police or you become a sheriff. The first thing they're going to do is invite you to the police academy or the FBI academy for leadership and everything like that. But that never, you guys know, it's the same in the military. That leadership training never trickles all the way down to the lowest level, guy or
Right.
gal.
It don't.
So you have all this great training, but it's at the top half of and then they're wondering, top half of your echelons wondering, why can't my younger guys and gals get it together? Well, your mid-management never let that training that you had make it all the way down. And, when I got into training up in DC, I found a passion for it. I really liked, and I've always been more of the operations guy. Up there, I was the lead protection officer for 2 different presidential appointees, one under President Obama, one under President Trump. And I was also the officer in charge of our federal special weapons unit and the training for it. So I've always been more the operation side. But when training, I don't know, like you said, Marie, I kept getting older, slower, and weaker, and they kept getting younger, stronger, and faster. And I was like, well, maybe my knowledge is something that's the next thing to spread. So that's
awesome.
what I did, and it's worked out really well.
Well, it's that old adage, hindsight's 2020. So you are where you're supposed to be in life right now. Everything that's happened to you over the course of your life has put you in this place. And it led you to creating your company, and like you said, organically it took off really, really fast, and it was meant to be. It's kind of like, my plan was to do 20 years in the military. That was my plan. So I was going to do my time in the Marines, go from the Marines into the Army, like most Marines do, finish out my time there. But when I got out of the Marine Corps the second time, the Army said, "Oh, well, we can't let you join the Army because you had asthmatic symptoms as a child." And I'm throwing those in quotation marks because I don't think that's the reason why they wouldn't allow me to join, because when I got out, they passed the new tattoo laws. Like if you had tattoos below your elbows, they wasn't letting people re-enlist. And I had a big Grim Reaper here. And I'm like, all right, that's the reason why. But they said it was asthmatic symptoms. And the funny thing is the doctor who let me go in the Marine Corps at Louisville MEPS was the same doctor who denied me from going into the Army. I'm like, Doc, you let me join the Marine Corps. I got 2 honorable discharges, 6 years, and you're telling me I can't go in the Army? I don't have to go through boot camp. But yeah, they denied me. And I look, at first I was really, really, really peed off, right? I was really upset. But hindsight's 2020, because if I had joined the military if I had went back into the military, I wouldn't have the current wife I have. I wouldn't have the 2 beautiful daughters I have. I wouldn't be in the position that I am in, 20 years of doing nonprofit work. And then in 2020, I resigned from my last board and I started the podcast in 22, the end of 22, and released our first episode in 23. And, here we are now, getting ready to be 2026, coming up on 3 years. And we've met some great nonprofits out there. We've veteran authors like Betsy Ross and William Stevens, who's in chat right now. All these other veteran podcasters that we've met, and the things that we've accomplished. With the Mogadishu Mile, Kentucky event that we have, and everything else. It's hindsight 2020, and my daughters, both at one time said they had planned on going into the military. Granted, life changes. My oldest daughter is at EKU. That's why I'm representing EKU right now. She's in the law enforcement or criminal justice pathway at EKU. She wants to be an FBI agent. That's her ultimate end goal. And whether she goes in the military after college, that's up to her. But Rico Danielson, which I don't know if you know Rico, he's a former national security analyst. He owns his own company. He's like, have her reach out to me, and I'm like, all right, because he does digital forensics and cybersecurity, and she's kind of doing the cybersecurity thing too. So she's doing criminal justice as her one of her main majors, and she's also majoring in cybersecurity.
See, that's a good thing. Sorry to interrupt, but that's a good thing for the FBI because they have their own hiring lane just for cybersecurity.
Oh, nice. So, and I was like, and I when I saw her this weekend, because we went up for the football game, I was like, hey, this is who I got coming on my show. It might be somebody you might want to look into his company and see, if it's something that might be able to help you in the future. So she looked, she read your bio and stuff that Alvin sent. And she goes, hey, I'm going to check that out. And of course, she's out with her boyfriend right now, so she's not watching the show. But more likely she'll come back on and watch it later. But I'll send her, your website link, which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That's www.armoganct.com. So go check that website out. So yeah, man, I love everything that you're doing, and I can see you're very passionate about helping potential law enforcement candidates be the best that they can be to get through the hiring process. So I went through Louisville Metro, which is the big city where I'm at. I went through that process 6 times. Now, I passed everything. Every time I didn't fail until the last time. I got really upset the last time, and I'll explain. So went through the process the first time, passed the physical part, the oral part, got to the next step, passed it. My recruiter went on vacation, said, hey, I'm gonna pass you off to the next guy. They'll send you an email when you got to do the next part. Never got an email, phone call. Then I get a phone call from my recruiter, said, hey, why didn't you show up? I'm like, hey, I never got anything. He calls me back a day later. Oh yeah, you wasn't on the email. No shit, I told you I wasn't. That went on 4 times where he passed me off, and I never got the email because he passed me off. Well, the last time I went through the process, I had completed everything. Chiefs panel, like I passed everything, and didn't get selected. Well, the last time I went back, I just rushed through it because I was already fed up because here it is. I'm going through 6 times. I'm like, so I rushed through. I failed the written part by 1 point, and I was like, all right, I'm done. It wasn't meant to be. After 6 times, I was like, all right, it wasn't meant to be. But we also had a chief at the time that wanted to hire a more diverse people into the organization, and also wanted more females in LMPD. And I was like, all right, I'm too white for the organization. So I was like, all right, cool. Here I am. I got a degree in criminal justice. I did 6 years in the Marine Corps, and I can't get on the police department because I'm too white. So that's kind of where I left it at.
It's a common fallacy. One of my harder candidates to get hired are military, our prior military. I work really hard to get prior military hired. And nowadays, since 2020, it's been a major shift. The psych, it's usually the last step now, or second to last. That has become the number 1 disqualifier. And they're roughest on 2 categories of individuals, 21 to 26-year-olds, right? They're looking for maturity from them, and military. Yeah. And here's the funny part. A psychologist is a mental health specialist. If you look at mental health, just like you would physical health, working out helps improve your physical health. So you would think seeking counseling and seeking, ability to increase your mental toughness and your mental health would be good. They'll fry you for it.
Yeah.
That's why I was just going to ask, because I've been told that, with law enforcement or military nowadays, psych is not a disqualifier as long as you're seeking help. But you're saying that it
Absolute
is a
opposite.
disqualifier even with seeking
Absolute
help.
opposite. Absolute
They're
opposite.
they're not going to tell you that it's a disqualifier.
I would be
Because-
willing to even make a statement publicly right now live that we probably have more data on law enforcement hiring between North America, Canada, and the US than even the FBI does, with how many people we deal with and how
Dang.
many people we see go through it. I've had a psychologist fail a candidate because when they asked her, how do you deal with trauma? She says, oh, I have a really good support system. I have my family. I have my church. The psychologist said, well, I'm an atheist, and I think your Christianity would be a detriment to law enforcement. That's one.
Oh.
Are you
I'm not-
serious?
By the way, this was before she worked with us. She came back. She failed another psych because she was rattled by the first one. So she 2 failed psychs under her belt. Came back, sat down, took a call with me. I'm like, yeah. Coached her, passed the psych with the same original female psychologist. 8
That's
months later,
crazy.
not even a year later when you're supposed to be eligible. 8 months later, psychologist said, oh, you're a whole new person. She came back to me in tears, said, Frank, I'm more rooted in my faith now than I ever was. I just didn't give that psychologist an in to talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the whole
less is
don't
more.
cast your pearls, don't cast your pearls before swine type thing.
So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that. I had a really well done E8 getting out of the military. Super good, solid career, right? E8. Looked at him. I'm like, hey, let me refresh you on what civilian life is. The lowest E1 in the military will laugh at you if you come to them as a retiree and say, I'm an E8, respect. They're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Lose any type of ego or anything you have coming into civilian world, or you're going to fail the psych. I'm like, you want coaching? He's like, nah, I think I got it. Went, failed psych, came back. It's like, I want coaching. Got some coaching, passed the psych.
So it sounds like, it sounds like a game almost.
It's not
Like that
necessarily a game.
that you have to limit yourself. You can't, I don't know.
Well-
To me, that just sounds like heartbreaking that you can't be who you are.
Well, it's not that. Here's the problem that a lot of people run into. They think because they jump, in my humble opinion, I don't think there's a harder job to get into than law enforcement in the United States and even Canada. We've helped a few candidates in South Africa, Australia, England, but the main thing here in North America or the U.S. is you're still asking for employment, so you still have to be a top contender, right? So
Yep.
a lot of people think I passed my written exam, I passed my physical exam, I passed my board interview, I passed my chief's interview, I passed my background packet, then I passed my background packet review, then I passed my polygraph, then I passed my medical, then I passed my psych. Oh, and by the way, if they had a civilian review board, I passed my civilian review board, and I still wasn't hired because I was non-selected, like you were saying, Willis. That's called a non-select, rather a DQ. A DQ means you didn't pass something, a disqualification, right?
Disqualified. Yeah.
Right. But a non-select, you could go through 6 months of hiring, 8 months of hiring, Customs and Border Protection, a year or two of hiring.
Yeah.
And still be told no, even after you passed everything, because at the end of the day, it's still employment. They're still looking for, if I have 400 applicants and I wind it down to 35 and all 35 pass the hiring, but I only have 20 billets for the academy, I got to cut 15.
Yeah.
And
And
so
those
they just
15
have to, sometimes they just have to find reasons to cut.
Yeah, and like one of the things is if you go into it and you think, hey, I'm gonna just all I need to do is just pass my written exam or just pass my physical, that'll get you moved to the next stage. But when you're competing for the final billet,
Yeah.
is that what's going to get you? Or I passed my oral board. You passed your oral board, but did you rank at the top?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a game, but there is a system to it.
Yeah.
But-
And,
so this
and that's something that I had to learn when I was going through. Of course, the chief even had come out and said, hey, this is who we're looking to hire. And I still went through the process. And like I said, I passed everything. Medical, polygraph, psych, I passed it all. Now the first few times it was because I had to wait to the next class because, they forgot to send the email. to me to report, to go to there for. Now, granted, I had a day job, and they still didn't send me an email say, hey, come here this day to do psych eval, go here this day to do the medical. So each time I had to wait to the next class. Well, that weighs heavy on you when here you are trying to go through a class. You have young kids at home, you got to support them, so you're taking off a day of work to go do these things for the job that you want. Because I really wanted to be a police officer. That was something that I really wanted to do, because that would help me with that sense of purpose. When you get out of the military, you lose that sense of purpose. So, if I had joined the police department, I could have had that sense of purpose. I would have had that brotherhood like we have in the military. And when you go through the process and hey, they're only hiring 1 or 2 white guys. Everybody else is, a minority, whether you're Latino, whether you're Black, whether you're Asian or female, because that's what the chief wanted. He wanted that diversity on the force at that time. And here you are fighting for a spot, and you pass everything, and you're at the top of the list on everything. I was on top of the physical, oral, written. I was on top of everything. And I did, when I was going through the process and I was doing my psych eval, I was like, all right, how would they want me to answer these questions?
Yeah,
because it's kind of, well, that's how I did it. I was like, this is how I would do it if I was in this situation or this situation. And I still passed. And I was like, all right, cool. Polygraph, that was easy to pass. You got to be yourself. You can't just go in there and be nervous, because a lot of people, I'm taking a polygraph, and they're already nervous when they walk in the door. So the polygraph was one of the easiest things for me to pass. I was just like, I'm just going to be me, who I am. And I love that you are out giving prospective law enforcement candidates a leg up, because there's not many people out there that will give a hand up. Because you're not giving a handout, you're giving a hand up. You're giving them a notch in their belt to help them secure a job that they want.
We're just giving them training.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, kind of based on what you just said, right? Okay, so if this is part of what you're doing, is that coaching on the employment side of things, right? You're also doing other preparations and stuff. But with this, do you provide online or over the phone coaching in case someone's not in your local area?
Oh, it's all via virtual platforms, via Zoom.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So it's all via Zoom. We have, once again, blessed, can't take credit for it. A lot of good mentors, and I was at least smart enough 50% of the time to listen to them. Imagine if it was 100. But no, the whole system is very much automated. We put out roughly, not counting repurposed content, we put out 9 pieces of free training content a week on social platforms.
Nice.
So
Okay.
Takes up a lot of time, but it's worth it. From there, they can jump on to any of our other free content. We have a free workshop that they can just go on and take. And then we also have free coaching calls, initial coaching calls with our instructors as well.
That's
What's
awesome.
what's your handle, just so that people can jump on it? They can go to your website, obviously, but what's
Yeah,
your
so
Facebook handle?
most of it,
or...
you're asking the wrong guy on this. I get the
Okay.
IT, but I'm pretty sure it's Armogan Training on almost everything, whether that be TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much.
So yeah, for here I got TikTok. It's at Armogan Training. YouTube at Armogan Training. That's the only two that they put on for social in the email. So if you're on TikTok, go follow Armogan Training. Same thing with YouTube. Go search Armogan Training there on YouTube as well. And I'm sure if you go to Google and you type in Armogan Training, you can
it pops right up.
Find it there. And same thing with Facebook. It's Armogan Training as well, because I would put Armogan Consulting and it didn't pop up, and I was like, all right, Armogan, and then it came up Armogan Training, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's it right there. So yeah, definitely go follow on all social medias. Go to the website. bookmark it, especially if you're thinking about getting into federal law enforcement, whether you're parks, game warden. I know
Or
Sharice, she's trying
state,
to,
local, it doesn't matter.
right.
We'll assist with all of it. But the big thing was like I was saying previously was um, the military is what led me to this. A lot of it was the same thing you mentioned, Willis, was having that purpose after I got out of the service because civilian life was a gut punch.
Yes, it definitely is. It definitely is. Well, we are about out of time, so I do want to thank you again for taking time out of your day and come and hang out with us here on Homefront Sit Rep. It was an honor to meet you, and I definitely want to keep in contact. For one, just in case my daughter needs some help with her law enforcement career, because I want to make sure she makes the best decisions for herself, so she's does good in the future. But if she needs some help coaching wise, I could say, hey, I got this guy named Frank. He can help coach you to get the job that you want, your dream job. So
Yeah,
man, it's
send
been a
her over.
pleasure,
We'll
and
take care of her.
awesome. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Alvin Woods, Chief Executive Officer, the media model, for reaching out to me and say, hey, I got this guy. So Alvin, if you're watching, listening, thank you. Thank you again for hooking me and Frank up, because couldn't come at a better time, honestly. So
Well, let me take
uh,
a minute to say I really thank you guys, and I really appreciate this and what you all are doing for veterans. It means a lot coming from me, so I appreciate it.
Thank you,
man,
Frank.
we thank you very much. I'm gonna drop you down. If you got to go, that's fine. If you want to hang out, then we'll chit chat at the end.
Sounds good.
Yep. Thank you, Frank, for sharing your story.
How cool was that,
That was awesome. That was so
man?
fun.
It's funny that the good Lord works the way that the good Lord works. Like I said, my daughter, she's in her freshman year at EKU. She's in the criminal justice pathway. Of course, she did the pathway in high school. She got a lot of credits before she went to EKU, and now she's in EKU. So she's a freshman, but technically she's a sophomore, if that makes sense, because of the credits that she did have. And she was going in computer science, so criminal justice computer science. Well, she never did anything computer science wise growing up. So, and that's very intense coding, right? And she made the decision to drop her computer science and go into cybersecurity, which is still in the same realm as computer science, just not as much coding involved. So she's doing she's doing really well. Like, she's straight A's on her policing and all of that. She really loves it. So when Alvin reached out to me just recently, I was like, man, it's perfect timing. It's something that I'm interested in, because I want to make sure that she's set up for her future. And I've listed all these options for her to help make her successful. Because I've learned from the mistakes that I made along my path, and I was hoping to give her a leg up. And this is kind of meeting Frank and what he's doing with Armogan Consulting and Training LLC. It's another tool in Dad's tool belt that I can help her in the future. So yeah, it's super
Yeah,
cool.
it's
So
awesome. Well, and not just in the future, like starting now, she can go online and watch some of the free videos and get
yeah,
involved. Like, that's
yeah.
amazing. That definitely is a God moment for you. And I'm
Yeah,
excited about
for
that.
sure. So I'm
And
I'm super excited to lead her in that path. Now, like the old adage, I can lead her to water. I can't make her drink. So
yeah,
we'll see
it's
what
true.
happens.
It's true.
So, but
And
no,
it's
I,
just
I want to.
wonderful. It's wonderful to just hear another veteran and how, dealing with injury and unmet expectations and still moving forward and
Yeah,
finding purpose and then using his voice to help the next generation. Like, that's exactly what we're doing on your show and on my show, is just showing people that there is life outside of trauma,
yeah,
physical or emotional. So I'm glad that we got to interview him.
yeah. I'm super excited, and it's one of those things that if we allow our traumas to define us, we could never move forward. So you can't let you can't let your traumas affect this. Because if you let the traumas affect this, then you will be stuck in the same rut over and over, and you'll be in that hole that you've dug yourself over and over and over until you let somebody help you. There's a Marine. I don't know his name. I know his TikTok handle. Um, Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got this Marine that is having a hard way." And when I reached out to him last night, and he was talking about suck starting his Glock. Here I am freaking out because I know he's in Danville, Kentucky, but I don't know who he is. I can't tell you his name. I can't tell you his location. And I'm freaking out because, I'm trying to talk to him and via DM, and he goes, "Oh, I'm good, brother. I'm out here with the coyotes and in the woods." He said, I got my Glock and his 5.5." So, here I am. I'm worried shitless. I'm like, how do I help this Marine that I followed him. I knew who he was, like, via TikTok, and he followed me. I followed him, but we never interacted. But yet he's still my brother, because he is a Marine, and I'm trying to, help him. And this morning when I woke up, there was messages from this morning that, he's good, but he's not good. And I'm still trying to get him help, but he's a Marine. He's stubborn. He don't want the help. So, but I'm trying to still talk to him, and the other person is still trying to talk to him and say, "Hey, there are people out here that's willing to help you." So, we'll see what happens, and hopefully I'll be able to meet this guy face to face, give him a hug, and say, "Hey, brother, you are
Not
not
alone.
alone." So good transition there.
Yeah,
And this right here, man. You want to read it? You got
sure.
a better reading voice than me.
Thanks. To every veteran who carries unseen scars, know this: you are not alone. The battles within don't have to be fought in silence because your brothers and sisters still stand beside you.
Here, this is the second part of it.
The uniform may come off, but the bond remains. And together we heal, we rise, and we carry each other forward.
Mm. It's so powerful right there.
It's
Just
beautiful.
that statement right there. The uniform may come off, but the bond remains. And together we heal, we rise, and we carry each other forward. That is so powerful. And then I'm going to read this one right here. In the silence of your struggles, remember, though unseen, you are deeply held in the hearts of others. You are not alone. So, no matter your darkest days, don't let your dark days win. Don't let the struggles that we face define you, because somebody wants you to be here tomorrow because they love you. So, don't let your dark days win. Hashtag be someone stranger. We've touched on this already on the show, but we talk about it on every episode of Home Front Sit Rep. Hashtag be someone stranger. We as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So if you're out and about and you see somebody that looks like they're having a bad day, go up to them and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And if they give you the red flags, "I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living a dream." Ask the next hard question. How are you really doing? But be ready for that conversation. It could be a 5-minute conversation, could be an 8-hour conversation. You have to be ready for that conversation. And then you want to take this, Marie?
It takes a village. I mean, that's completely the truth. Like for me, I have multiple support groups. I've got my church support group, I've got my recovery support group, I've got my veteran support group, and now I've got my podcaster support group. Like I would not be here today if I didn't have the villages behind me. But I had to reach out. I had to find the villages because they don't always come and find you. You have to reach out to them because they're not going to take away your on autonomy. You have to heal the way you need to, but there is huge villages behind you that will have your back the minute you reach out. And anytime you
Yeah.
walk away, it doesn't matter. We will open you back with open arms. So find your village, find your community. That's what I say is find your community. We can do
Yeah.
this together.
Yeah. Find your tribe, find your community. Um, and like Gunny says, open up your phone, go to your contacts, close your eyes, scroll through, hit and just tap your finger on it. Whoever it lands on, call that person and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And check in on that person. If they don't answer, leave a message, call back, and do it again. And do that until you do get somebody on the other end, because you never know. The person on the other end might need to hear your voice, and you might just save their life. You never know. Then again, it could be them saving your life. So if you're out there and you're struggling, do cell phone roulette. That's what Gunny calls it, cell phone roulette. Just scroll through your contacts. First one it lands on, boom, you give them a call and chit chat. You might not have talked to them in 20 years, but reach out to them. So it definitely takes a village. Big shout out to our partners, Heroes Media Group, Adam Bird at heroesmediagroup.com. Go check out heroesmediagroup.com. Adam is phenomenal. I love everything that he's building, everything that he's doing with Heroes Media Group. Also, Reach Across America Radio, which the link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That's www.reachacrossamerica.org/radio. Jeff Pierce and his team, they are phenomenal. You can go every night of the week to reachacrossamericaradio.org/radio, and you could hear all these different veteran podcasters, all of them. There's a whole plethora of them, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So go check out reachacrossamerica.org/radio. And then Military United podcast streams Elite Engraving, which I don't have my hat down here tonight. Elite Engraving is a small veteran-owned company here in Campbellsburg, Kentucky. So up towards Frankfort area. They're a small wife and husband combo. They're both veterans. They do shirts, hats, engraving on cups, and all, anything. They kind of do a little bit of everything. So go check out Elite Engraving. Same flag, same oath.com. Small t-shirt company out in Katy, Texas. So go check out same flag, same oath.com. We have a co-branded shirt with them. Uncle Sam's wearing it. It says Marine It Down, which is a wordplay on Keep It Simple, Stupid, which is what we do in the Marines because we like to keep things simple. So Marine It Down. So go check out same flag, same oath.com. Also, go check out sliderbabe.com, Marie's website. Go check out sliderbabe.com. You can see her poetry, her photography, everything that she does is on her website. If you want to be on her show with Brian and her on Coffee Talk with Brian and Marie, you can also schedule it there. And then go check out homefrontsitrep.com. You can see all these veteran nonprofits, these veteran business owners, veteran comedians, authors. They're all listed on there. I do need to update it, which I'm coming into my slow period at work where I'll be sitting in the office a lot more because when it's cold, I can't play in the dirt. So I'll be updating that here at the end of December-ish time frame, updating the website. So go check out that. And then make sure you go check out ArmoganCT.com. That's www.armogancT.com. So go check that. And then, like we always say on Homefront Sit Rep, stay safe out there. We got your six.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find Homefront Sit Rep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.